Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exploring Jefferson nickels, a classic US coin that's been in circulation since 1938. While they may seem common, certain Jefferson nickels hold rare mint marks, silver content, and unique errors. That Washington quarter dollars, a coin that's been a part of American life since 1932. While most look like ordinary change, some hold rare mint marks, silver content, and valuable errors that make them highly sought after by collectors. This coin belongs to a significant period in US numismatics, marking the end of an era when nickels were minted in massive quantities for everyday use. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938, and the 1964 issue was one of the most heavily minted in the entire series due to the coin shortage of the 1960s. The obverse of the coin features a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States and the principal author of the Declaration of Independence. The detail in his hair and facial features often becomes worn in circulated examples, and in this case, the presence of red shading likely comes from prolonged exposure to environmental elements or contaminants such as rust, oxidation, or foreign substances. This can slightly obscure some of the finer details, particularly around Jefferson's cheek and the inscriptions near the rim. On the reverse side of the coin, Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home, is prominently displayed, with wear and discoloration. Features like the steps of Monticello or the small windows can become less distinct. In circulated examples, such as this, the building might appear flat or smoothed out in places. The red shading, which is not typical of the coin's original nickel-silver color, suggests that the coin may have come into contact with metal-reactive substances or has been stored in less than ideal conditions. The 1960 for nickel does not contain silver. Unlike earlier wartime nickels minted from 1942 to 1945, it was struck using a standard alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Despite the high mintage, this specific year is still popular with collectors, particularly those assembling date sets or interested in transitional years. However, because so many were made and most were used in daily commerce, only coins in mint state or with special errors are considered particularly valuable, the coin's condition being described as red-shaded and circulated places in a more common category for collectors. While it may not hold significant monetary value, it still carries historical and educational interest. It serves as a good representative example of mid-20th century American coinage and is a reminder of a time when cash transactions were more frequent and coins passed through many hands over decades. For someone collecting Jefferson nickels by year, this 1960 for red-shaded piece still has a place in a circulated set. It shows how different environmental exposures affect coin surfaces, making each piece unique in its own right. Red hues on a nickel are not typical and can spark curiosity. They sometimes result from storage in containers with a high iron content, exposure to extreme temperatures, or even chemical reactions in the air or soil, especially if the coin was buried or stored improperly. Even though the coin has seen extensive handling, its design is still recognizable, and the date remains legible. These are essential factors for a coin to remain of interest to collectors or hobbyists. The edge of the coin is smooth, without reading, as is standard for all Jefferson nickels. Some wear or softening of the edges is also common in coins that have circulated for decades. In summary, while the 1960 for Jefferson nickel with red shading may not stand out for its rarity or mint condition, it represents the practical history of American currency. It tells the story of a well-used coin that contributed to commerce in its day and now serves as a modest but valuable part of a coin collection. Its wear and discoloration add character, making it a small artifact of a broader numismatic and cultural narrative. The 1980 Washington quarter dollar is a coin that was produced at the Denver Mint during a time of notable economic and minting transitions in the United States. Like other quarters in the Washington series, it features a portrait of George Washington on the front, a design originally created by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. This design had remained in place for decades, and the 1982 edition continued the tradition with only minor variations in strike quality and finish. The coin in question is from 1982 and bears the D mint mark, indicating it was struck in Denver. That year is particularly significant for coin collectors and historians because the U.S. Mint did not produce mint sets for general collectors. This absence resulted in many circulated examples from 1980 to being the primary source of coins from that year, making higher-grade examples harder to find. However, the example here is in noticeably bad condition, with scratches and signs of wear that indicate long-term use in circulation. On the obverse side, the design shows George Washington's profile facing left, with inscriptions noting the country of issue and the national motto. Due to the coin's worn state, the finer details of Washington's hair, face, and clothing are likely smoothed down, and the inscriptions may show signs of fading. Scratches and marks on the surface can obscure or interrupt the visual appeal, which often affects the coin's desirability from a collector's standpoint. The reverse of the coin depicts a heraldic eagle with wings spread, clutching a bundle of arrows and an olive branch beneath. This image symbolizes both strength and peace and has been a consistent part of the quarter's reverse since its original design. On a coin in bad condition like this one, the eagle's feathers, the arrows, and the olive branch may all appear heavily worn or flattened. The inscriptions, such as United States of America and quarter dollar, may be dulled or partially obscured by the scratches that mar the coin's surface. The 1980 to D quarter was made from a copper nickel-clad composition. This means it has a core of copper with an outer layer of copper-nickel alloy, giving it a silver-like color. Over time and with extensive use, these coins can develop discoloration, spotting, or a dull finish. On coins with heavy circulation like this one, there is often an accumulation of grime or the presence of deeper scratches that go beyond light surface abrasions, especially if the coin was handled roughly or stored improperly. Although this coin is relatively common, the lack of mint sets for the year makes well-preserved examples from 1980 to more desirable among collectors than usual. However, coins in poor condition with noticeable scratches or damage typically do not hold any premium above face value unless they feature an error or variety that is in demand. Error coins from 1980 to do exist, including off-center strikes or die breaks, but these are rare and need to be authenticated and graded professionally to determine value. A coin in this condition, while not valuable in the traditional numismatic sense, can still be of interest to some collectors or enthusiasts who are assembling full-year sets of circulated quarters or studying wear patterns over time. It also serves as a small artifact of American currency history, representing the daily transactions of ordinary life during the early 1980s. Many people who collect circulated coins do so not for monetary value, but for the history and experience that each coin represents. A 1980 to D quarter with visible damage and where might have passed through countless hands, been used in everything from vending machines to toll booths, and traveled widely across the country. Its condition tells part of that story. Despite being scratched and worn, it remains a tangible connection to the past and a reminder of how physical currency once moved constantly through everyday life. Next up we have the 1965 Jefferson nickel is a widely circulated coin that forms part of the long-running Jefferson nickel series, which began in 1938, minted during a period of significant change in U.S. coinage. This coin reflects the shift in materials and production strategies undertaken by the U.S. Mint during the mid-1960s. The 1965 issue was struck without a mint mark, as part of a broader effort by the Mint to discourage coin hoarding and alleviate the nationwide coin shortage occurring at the time. The obverse of the coin features a profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States. On circulated examples such as this one, you'll often see signs of wear along Jefferson's cheekbone, jawline, and hair, with some of the finer details appearing soft or smoothed from repeated handling. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" along with the date 1965 remain present, although they may show signs of fading or abrasion, especially if the coin has seen extensive use over the decades. The reverse side of the coin depicts Jefferson's home, Monticello, a neoclassical building that remains an iconic American symbol. On a circulated coin, details such as the steps, windows, and dome of Monticello may appear worn or flat, and the inscriptions "E pluribus unum Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America" can be less defined. The wear pattern on circulated coins, like this one, often varies depending on how the coin was handled and stored, but general smoothing of raised features is typical, unlike nickels from 1942 to 1945, which contained 35% silver due to wartime metal needs. The 1965 Jefferson nickel was made with the standard alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel. These materials gave the coin its familiar silvery gray appearance, though with age and use, a circulated coin may develop a duller, sometimes darker tone. While the composition remained consistent, mint marks were removed from all U.S. coins from 1965 to 1967 in an attempt to prevent people from saving coins based on perceived rarity. The 1965 Jefferson nickel is not considered rare due to its high mintage. Over 1.7 billion were produced, but it holds historical value because of its context in American numismatic history. It was a year when the U.S. Mint was addressing massive changes in coin design and production, especially the removal of silver from dimes and quarters and the experimentation with clad compositions. Although nickels were not affected by the silver content changes, the coins from this era are often collected as part of complete date runs or to represent the transition years of U.S. coinage. In circulated condition, this 1965 nickel doesn't typically hold much monetary value, but it can still be appreciated for its age and as part of a larger collection. It offers an opportunity to observe the effects of circulation over time. For example, the coin's rim may show rounding or nicks, the field's flat areas may exhibit surface scratches, and the overall luster may be diminished or replaced with a more matte or even slightly discolored surface from decades of use. Collectors of circulated Jefferson nickels often look for dates, errors, or varieties to complete sets or find interesting anomalies. Though the 1965 nickel does not feature any widely recognized mint errors, individual coins may exhibit die cracks, off-center strikes, or planchette flaws that can make them more intriguing to enthusiasts. However, in general, circulated examples like this are most appreciated for their historic continuity and accessibility. Even after nearly 60 years, the 1965 Jefferson nickel continues to appear in everyday change. A testament to the durability and longevity of U.S. coinage, it represents a time when coins were transitioning in design and materials, and when physical currency still played a central role in daily transactions. As a circulated piece, it speaks to the broader story of American commerce and the enduring presence of familiar figures like Thomas Jefferson in pocket change across generations. The 1983 Washington quarter dollar was struck at the Denver Mint and forms part of the long-running series featuring the profile of George Washington on the obverse. Like other coins of this era, it was produced using a copper-nickel clad composition, which includes a core of pure copper with outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. This gives the coin a silvery appearance, but also makes it susceptible to wear and dulling over time, especially when it has been actively circulated, as is the case with this particular example. On the obverse, the familiar design by John Flanagan presents George Washington facing left. The inscriptions include liberty above the portrait and the motto "In God We Trust" to the left. The date, 1983, is centered at the bottom, with the D mint mark appearing to the right of the bust. In a circulated coin, many of the finer design details, such as Washington's hair and the sharpness of the lettering, can become smoothed or faint. Small abrasions, contact marks from other coins, and general dullness tend to accompany coins that have remained in circulation for several decades. The reverse features the image of a heraldic eagle, its wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows and surrounded by olive branches. The inscriptions include United States of America and E pluribus unum above the eagle, and $quarter below. This design is a standard representation of American strength and unity. On a circulated 1983 D quarter, where is often noticeable on the eagle's feathers and the finer elements of the arrows and olive branch. In addition to where a circulated coin may exhibit tarnish, discoloration, or grime from prolonged handling. One notable fact about 1983 quarters, both from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, is that the U.S. Mint did not release official mint sets for that year, similar to 1982. As a result, uncirculated examples of 1983 quarters are significantly scarcer than most other modern quarters, which has given them slightly more attention in the collector market. However, circulated examples, like the one in question, are still relatively common, and their value generally remains close to face unless in very high grade or featuring a known mint error. While the overall design remains consistent, every coin accumulates its own history. A coin from 1983 that has been in circulation may have been used in countless transactions, traveled across states, and passed through generations of daily usage. The marks, nicks, and softening of features are physical representations of that journey. In this case, the coin retains its basic structure and all necessary identifying features, but the softness of its details and signs of wear make it a less desirable piece for collectors seeking pristine condition. That said, coins like this one often find a place in typesets, circulated condition collections, or in educational displays that show the wear progression of coins over time. They are also valuable to hobbyists and beginning collectors who enjoy building complete date and mint mark collections without focusing on uncirculated or high-grade coins. The 1983 D Washington quarter remains part of an important era in U.S. numismatics. Its presence during a time when mint sets were unavailable makes it a small but notable piece of numismatic history, even in circulated condition. Though it may not hold significant monetary value, it offers insights into both the minting practices of the early 1980s and the role of physical coinage in American commerce. The 1987 Jefferson nickel is a standard 5-cent piece that was part of regular United States coinage. Featuring the long-standing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front, this coin was produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The design had remained largely unchanged since 1938, continuing the original concept by artist Felix Schlag. Over the decades, this design became deeply familiar to Americans, making it a recognizable part of daily transactions. This specific coin, from 1987, shows signs of circulation. It has likely been used in commerce for many years, resulting in wear that softens the finer details of the coin. On the obverse side, Jefferson's profile may show smoothing along the hairline, jaw, and cheek. The inscriptions, including the words expressing the national motto and the word representing liberty, may still be visible but with less sharpness than when the coin was newly struck. The date, placed next to these inscriptions, is generally still readable unless the coin is heavily worn. The reverse side of the coin presents Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate. This building is centrally placed, with words arching above and below describing the denomination and the country of issue. In circulated condition, the lines and features of Monticello may be flattened or partially faded, especially the steps at the front of the building, which are often the first to wear away. Depending on how the coin has been stored or handled, surface marks, dullness, or a slight change in coloration may also be present. The 1987 nickel was composed of a blend of copper and nickel, a composition used for many decades. This alloy gives the coin a silvery gray appearance that can sometimes take on a slightly darker or spotted tone after prolonged exposure to air or moisture. While corrosion is less of an issue with this type of coin, small blemishes or toning may still develop over time, especially in circulated examples. No special varieties or widely recognized errors are associated with this year, making it a relatively common coin in the Jefferson series. However, coins with unusual marks or striking irregularities can always be interesting to those who enjoy searching for oddities or building unique collections. Coins from this year without a mint mark were produced in Philadelphia, while those bearing the letter D were struck in Denver. In either case, these coins were intended for circulation and were made in large numbers, meaning they are easy to find today in average condition. As such, their value is generally equal to their face value unless they are in exceptional uncirculated condition or have some special characteristic. Despite their commonness, these nickels still hold a place in numismatic history. They are part of the larger story of American coinage and represent a consistent period in minting before the Jefferson design would be updated in the early 2000s. For collectors who enjoy assembling full-year sets or observing how design wear progresses over time, a coin like the 1987 nickel plays a small but meaningful role. Whether kept for nostalgia, added to a collection, or used to teach others about coins, even circulated examples can be appreciated for what they reflect about daily life and historical continuity. A coin like this carries the weight of time through subtle signs of wear. It may have been exchanged countless times, kept in pockets, jars, or drawers, and it remains a link to moments now past. While it may not be rare, its value as a piece of everyday history remains. The 1970 Jefferson nickel, part of the long-running series that began in 1938, was minted during a period when the design and composition of the coin remained largely unchanged. This particular coin, dated 1970 and described as circulated, reflects a typical example of mid-20th century U.S. coinage that has seen use in everyday commerce. Over time, circulated coins often show signs of wear, including smoothing of high points, loss of luster, and minor abrasions, which can be expected in this case as well. On the obverse of the 1970 Jefferson nickel, Thomas Jefferson's left-facing profile, designed by Felix Schlag, remains the central feature. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" are positioned along the left and right sides of the coin, with the date 1970 following. Circulated examples usually exhibit worn areas on Jefferson's hair, cheek, and jawline, where repeated handling has reduced detail. The edges may be smoother, and the fields may show contact marks or dulling from years of movement through pockets, tells, and coin rolls. The reverse side features Jefferson's home, Monticello, centered with the inscriptions "E Pluribus Unum" above, Monticello directly below the image, and 5 cents along with United States of America encircling the lower edge. In circulated condition, the architectural details, such as the steps, columns, and dome, may be partially flattened or faded. This is typical and indicates the coin was in active circulation for many years. In 1970, Jefferson nickels were struck at 3 U.S. mints: Philadelphia no mint mark, Denver D, and San Francisco S. The majority of circulating coins came from Philadelphia and Denver. If the coin lacks a mint mark to the right of Monticello, it was produced in Philadelphia. If there's a D, it was minted in Denver. The S mint mark typically appears on proof coins, which were not intended for circulation, though some may have entered circulation by accident or through collectors. The composition of the 1970 nickel remains the standard 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a durable, silvery gray appearance. Circulation wear can cause the coin to lose its original mint luster, and exposure to air, moisture, or varying conditions can result in toning or light discoloration. However, the coin's metal composition makes it relatively resistant to corrosion compared to other coin types, which helps it maintain integrity even after decades of use. From a collector standpoint, most 1970 Jefferson nickels in circulated condition are common and hold minimal monetary value beyond face value. However, they do serve a role in date and mint mark sets and are appreciated by those building full series collections. While the 1970 issue does not have any major recognized errors or varieties, minor anomalies such as die cracks, die chips, or strike doubling may be found and can be of interest to era collectors. Despite being common, a circulated 1970 Jefferson nickel offers historical value. It represents a period of stability in U.S. coinage design, during which the Jefferson portrait and Monticello design were constants. It also connects to an era of significant political and cultural change in the United States, just before the bicentennial celebrations and design shifts that would affect other coins in the decade to follow. Ultimately, this coin is an accessible piece of American numismatic history. Though not rare, its condition tells a story of decades in circulation, connecting it to countless transactions and everyday moments in the lives of those who handled it. Its continued presence today, still recognizable and functional, is a testament to the durability of U.S. coinage and the lasting impact of simple, effective design. Next up we have the 1981 D Washington quarter dollar was minted at the Denver Mint and carries the D Mint mark to the right of George Washington's portrait on the obverse. This coin is part of the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932. The design remained largely unchanged for decades, maintaining a sense of continuity in American circulating coinage. On the obverse of the coin is the familiar bust of George Washington, facing left. This portrait, designed by John Flanagan, includes the inscriptions "Liberty" at the top, "In God We Trust" to the left of the portrait, and the year 1981 at the bottom. The D Mint mark indicating the Denver Mint is placed just to the right of the ribbon in Washington's hair. This particular coin is in good condition. That means it has seen circulation, but has retained most of its details clearly. Washington's features, such as the cheek, jawline, and hair, are likely somewhat worn, but the key design elements remain easily visible. The fields may show minor contact marks or light scratches from regular handling, but there is no major damage. The edges are intact with the reeded border still largely defined. The reverse of the coin features a heraldic eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below. Above the eagle is the motto "E Pluribus Unum," and surrounding the design are the inscriptions "United States of America" and "quarter dollar." On a coin in good condition, much of the fine detailing on the eagle, such as the feathers and the tips of the arrows, may show signs of softening from wear. Though the overall design remains identifiable and clean, the coin is composed of a copper nickel-clad alloy, standard for quarters minted after 1965. This clad composition, with a copper core and outer layers of nickel, results in a silver-gray appearance. In good condition, the coin likely still has some natural shine, though the luster may be subdued due to age and use. Over 575 million Washington quarters were minted in Denver in 1981, making this a common date within the series. Its value in circulated good condition is typically its face value, though it holds interest for collectors seeking to build a full date and mint mark set. The 1981 D quarter represents an era of American coinage when designs remained consistent year after year. It was part of everyday life, passed through the hands of millions of people in commerce, and now serves as a quiet record of its time. Though it is not a rare or high-value coin, it holds its place in the broader story of U.S. coins and the Washington quarter series. The next up we have the 1941 Jefferson nickel. Is a mid-20th century coin that continues the early years of the Jefferson nickel series, which began in 1938. Minted just before the United States entered World War II. The 1941 nickel holds historical significance as it represents a time when the country was still using its standard nickel-copper composition. Shortly before the transition to wartime silver alloy nickels in 1942, this particular coin, bearing the date 1941 and showing some dots, likely signs of wear, minor corrosion, or environmental exposure, provides insight into both its age and the conditions it has endured over the decades. The obverse side of the coin features a left-facing profile of Thomas Jefferson, designed by sculptor Felix Schlag. Despite its age, much of the design remains recognizable. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" appear along the left and right edges, respectively, framing Jefferson's profile. with the date 1941 to the far right. On coins that have seen circulation and show signs of aging, the details on Jefferson's hair, cheek, and jawline may appear soft or worn. The presence of small dots could be the result of oxidation or other surface contamination, common in coins that have been exposed to moisture, varying temperatures, or chemicals over time. The reverse features a depiction of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate. This design also includes the inscriptions E pluribus unum at the top, Monticello just below the structure, followed by 5 cents and United States of America at the bottom. In circulated coins such as this, the architectural detail of Monticello, especially the steps, pillars, and dome, can show significant smoothing. If the coin has developed spots or dots, those are often found in the fields or flat areas of the coin and can sometimes obscure finer details. The 1941 Jefferson nickel was minted in large quantities at 3 different U.S. mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver D, and San Francisco S. Coins without a mint mark were produced in Philadelphia. Given the description here, it seems this coin may be from the Philadelphia Mint. The absence of a mint mark under Monticello confirms that the composition of the 1941 nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gives the coin a silvery gray appearance. Over time, environmental exposure can cause discoloration, tarnish, or the development of small raised or sunken dots. While these marks can be aesthetically distracting, they are common on circulated coins and don't necessarily indicate structural damage unless severe corrosion is present. The presence of these dots, combined with its circulated state, generally means the coin has more historical than monetary value. Most 1941 Jefferson nickels in average circulated condition are not rare and are typically valued modestly unless they exhibit rare errors or are in uncirculated or proof condition. However, for collectors building a complete set of Jefferson nickels by date and mint mark, even a circulated 1941 example is an important and necessary piece. Some collectors also seek out varieties or errors from this year. While the 1941 nickel doesn't have any widely publicized die varieties, coins from this period can occasionally show die cracks, repunched mint marks on D or S coins, or minor planchet flaws. These features, when verified, may slightly enhance a coin's interest and value to certain collectors. Overall, this 1941 Jefferson nickel with some dotting and circulated condition tells a story not just of its place in American coinage, but also of its long life in pockets, cash registers, and drawers. It reflects the durability of mid-century coinage and remains a solid example of pre-war U.S. currency. Though common in numismatic circles, it contributes to the rich history of American coins and continues to hold value for collectors interested in historical context, full date and mint sets, or the tangible passage of time through everyday objects. The 1980 for D Washington quarter dollar was minted in Denver and is part of the regular circulation coinage of the United States during the latter part of the 20th century. The coin features the enduring portrait of George Washington, originally designed by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of Washington's birth. The obverse side presents his profile facing left, with the inscriptions Liberty across the top, In God We Trust to the left of the bust, the date 1984, below, and the D mint mark to the right of the portrait, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint. As a circulated coin, this 1980 for D quarter displays the signs of its age and usage. The details of Washington's hair, especially the ribbon and the curls near the nape of the neck, may be worn down or smoothed out from handling. The high points of the design are often the first to wear, and in circulated condition, these areas lack the original sharpness seen in mint state coins. The surfaces of the coin may exhibit minor scratches, small nicks, or slight discoloration, all common features from being used in everyday transactions over many years. On the reverse, the design depicts a heraldic eagle, wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath. The eagle's chest, wings, and the finer features of the arrows often show significant flattening on circulated examples. The inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum appear above the eagle, and quarter dollar is found below. While the basic design remains identifiable, the overall sharpness tends to be reduced on coins that have seen extensive circulation. The composition of the 1980 for quarter is copper-nickel clad, with a core of pure copper sandwiched between two outer layers of copper and nickel alloy. This composition was introduced in the mid-1960s to replace the 90% silver coinage, and while it is durable, it can accumulate grime and lose its luster over time. The edge of the coin is reeded, though in circulated coins, the reeding may be partially worn or smoothed. In terms of mintage, over 546 million 1980 for D quarters were produced, making it a common coin from a production standpoint. As such, circulated examples typically do not carry much numismatic value beyond face value unless they feature significant errors or are in unusually high grades for their condition. However, for collectors assembling date and mint mark sets, a 1980 for D quarter is a necessary piece and holds interest as part of a larger collection. The significance of coins like this lies not necessarily in rarity, but in their role in everyday commerce and their representation of the period they were minted. Coins from the 1980s, including the 1980 for D quarter, were part of a stable era in U.S. coinage, reflecting a time before the state quarter program and other major changes revitalized public interest in coin collecting, though it has circulated. The 1980 for D quarter continues to serve as a practical example of American coinage and a tangible artifact from its time. Its condition may limit its appeal to high-end collectors, but it remains a valuable piece for hobbyists, educational purposes, and those interested in the complete history of the Washington Quarter series.